Hello and a very good afternoon to everybody. My name is George Asian and welcome to class. Welcome to class. If you are here, it's great to have you here. If you aren't here, then you can actually watch a video when you are available. But I want to just quickly share a few important terms and terminologies in NeuroLinguistic Programming. For you to understand and pass the exam, the NLP exam, you need to understand certain terms. For those of you who don't know what NLP is, and I doubt if you don't know what it is, NLP is Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's a body of knowledge put together in 1975 to help people achieve peak performance, cure phobias, and do a whole lot. Okay, so learning it, you can do an exam and become a professional certified NLP person. So I want to quickly get us to understand these terms, and it's actually changed my life. NLP has changed my life. Famous people like Oprah Winfrey, Bruce Willis, many top people, athletes that you wouldn't know or that you'd know that have used NLP to better their life, to achieve success, to reach peak performance. So let's look at some terms that we use regularly, and you often hear us use it in NLP. The first term I want us to consider is the term dissociation. What does dissociation mean? It's just like the name implies, dividing, separating yourself, stepping outside of the view of the experience. Now, one of the things you notice in NLP a lot is that we do a lot of visualization. We do a lot of mental picturing. We believe that our internal representation determine our outward manifestation. We believe that how qualitative our life is largely dependent on how we use our mind, how we use our imagination, how we visualize. And one technique that we use is called dissociation, or developing a dissociated state. By that, for example, if I give you the exercise to do, I'll tell you to close your eyes, and if you're watching this video, you can do this exercise quickly. You can close your eyes, and I want you to try to do some imagination right now. I want you to see you walk into a church. If you're a Christian, then it will not be hard for you to do. Your church. Think about your church, and I want you to see the pictures as clearly as you can. I want you to see let's assume that the venue is totally empty. The seats that are there, look at the floor and imagine the floor. Look at the chairs around you. Try and see them as clearly as possible. I want you to also imagine the serenity, feel the serenity and of the place, the ambience. Imagine the place lit. Let's say there's lights in your place, in the church you attend, and then just feel the presence of that place. All right, have you done that exercise? Now, if you have done that exercise, a few things I want to ask you about that exercise. The first question I want to ask you is, did you see yourself walk into that auditorium, or that church auditorium, or that hall? Did an eye see you that's separate from you, standing and looking and viewing and trying to do those things I gave as instructions? If that's what happened to you, if you saw somebody that represents you in this mental picture, what you did actually was you dissociated yourself, you separated yourself. So an eye was seeing you standing. And then what if, as I gave the exercise, I did this exercise, you did not see yourself? Or what you did was that you saw, this eye was seeing everything I was describing. You saw it in clear terms. You saw the description of the chairs, you saw the floor, you saw the pulpit, you saw the lighting, you saw everything, but you did not see another person. You didn't see you, but you saw, your eyes saw. If you ever did that exercise, what you did basically was the association or the associated states. So there are two kinds of states. We have dissociated states and we have associated states. Dissociated state is when you step out of your view and you see yourself looking at, you see yourself doing the stuff. You're actually seeing yourself in, like for example, when you get to have a dream and you see yourself in that dream. That is a dissociated state. How does it relate to peak performance? How does it relate to public speaking, communication, achieving your goals? It's very easy. Whenever you want to get results, like you want to see yourself doing great things, you want to see yourself doing amazing things, you want to create that scenario and separate yourself so that you can view yourself doing that thing best. Like maybe speaking, for example, you can view yourself speaking to that audience and doing it well. You can see the way you're dressed, you can see your shoes, you can see your hair, you can see your sharpness, you can see the quality of your charisma. You can, beyond that, also see the response of the people, see the smile on your face. That is your seeing self. If there is a situation in the office, one of the things you can also do is maybe you have a meeting with somebody and you feel that meeting is going to be a confrontational meeting. What you can also do is you can dissociate yourself and actually rehearse that meeting in your mind. We call it mental rehearsals. Create a scenario and rehearse the meeting. See yourself standing, talking to the individual, see the person's response to you, and all of that. Whenever you do this exercise, you are actually doing what is called dissociation. And maybe one of these days we'll take a time to do a study on associated states, and then we'll help you understand all of that difference. All right, the next term I want you to understand in NeuroLinguistic Programming is called deletion. If you're taking down notes, dissociation is important, and if you're doing exams that will certify you as an NLP person and improve you, we'll get to explain that later, but just keep that as a term. I'll go into more details so you can understand its application to life, its application to your health, your mental health. If you are doing therapy for some people, you might need to get them to separate from themselves and see the situation more objectively. You're doing therapy, dissociation can be very powerful. Developing dissociated states can be so powerful. All right. The next thing you want to write down in your note is deletion. What is deletion? Deletion is the process of excluding portions of experience of the world from one's internal representation. One of the things you must understand is that you have so much power, and you can choose to ignore certain experiences. You can choose to ignore certain experiences in your life. Whenever you ignore or refuse to notice or refuse to appreciate or you refuse to believe anything, what you're simply doing is you are deleting. And the beautiful thing about this stuff is that you can literally delete things in your life. You can also delete words. The reason why you have the feelings and you get into those states, remember what state is? A state is your current feeling, how you're feeling right now. And the beautiful thing about your state is that your state determines your performance. You know, successful people find a way to be in empowering states more often than not. They find a way to be empowered, to be motivated, to be in the right state, because with the right state, you can achieve a whole lot. The reason why you're not getting the kind of results you're looking for in your business, in your workplace, in your career, is because you're having a negative state or a low or weak state. So you have to find a way to get yourself in the right state. So there are certain words that you say, there are certain vocabulary, certain words you repeatedly say, language pattern. In neuro-linguistic programming, we call it language pattern. There's a certain language pattern that you use that puts you in states, puts you in positive states or negative states or average states. And if you want to get or maintain certain states, you want to delete certain words. Just delete certain phrases, delete certain sentences from your vocabulary. Never use it. All right, never use it in any conversation, never use it in public speaking, never use it when you're having conversation with people. Just delete it totally from your vocabulary, and you would have constant of course, incorporate new empowering alternatives or empowering words, and you feel very invigorated. So deletion is literally deleting words, and not just deleting words, deleting pictures. Deleting pictures from your mind. You can delete pictures from your mind. Deletion in NLP also means ignoring things. You can choose to ignore. As a matter of fact, your mind naturally ignores certain things. Over 2 million bits of information come at you through sensory data to you, and you choose what you choose. You choose to focus on what you choose to focus on. You delete certain experiences naturally. And so deliberately, you can also choose to delete certain words, delete certain experiences, refuse to think about it. delete them in your mind. And again, this is all mental, and because it is mental, realize that your mind is your creative agency and your mind is what has power. So deletion is another very important word we use in NLP. Now let me jump to another very important thing another term that you want to write down in neurolinguistic programming. That term is called ritual. Now, not ritual in the literal sense. Ritual in neurolinguistic programming means habits, things that you do on a regular basis. Successful people have rituals. They have things they do regularly. So technically we say ritual is a sequence of activities designed to anchor or condition. There's a word, write down the word anchor. We'll look at that later. It's a whole topic on its own. And you can anchor yourself or you can condition yourself. So there are certain words you say repeatedly to yourself. You wake up in the morning and you're saying certain words to yourself. That is a ritual. You do certain exercises on a regular basis. That's a ritual. Those things you do on a regular basis that is meant to put you in states or to anchor you, to condition you, they are called ritual. And so you ask successful, what's your ritual? What's your routine? Routine that they do it religiously. They don't fail to do it. All right, so that's what a ritual is. And so every time you hear me use the word ritual in the neurolinguistic programming, I'm not talking about the ritual that you understand. We're talking about a sequence of activities designed to anchor or condition people. Let's look at another term in NLP. Another very important term in NLP is kinesics. Kinesics. I'll spell it for you. K-I-N-E-S-I-C. K-I-N-E-S-I-C. Whenever you hear the word kinesic, we're talking about the study of your body language. One of the things you understand in neurolinguistic programming is that we talk a lot about not just your mind, we talk about the relationship between your mind and your body. There is a nexus, there is a relationship, an interaction between mind and body, between your psychology and your physiology. And we believe that if you can manipulate your body, you can actually manipulate your mind. And if you can manipulate your mind, you can manipulate your body. So as much as we study the psychology, the visualizations, the internal representations, our submodalities, we also spend time to study the way our body moves. So when you study the body, we call it kinesics. Kinesics, that's another term you want to understand in neurolinguistic programming. There's another very important term we talk about in neurolinguistic programming, and that word is called strategy. Now, the way we say strategy, the way we mean, what we mean by strategy in neurolinguistic programming is not the same way or the same meaning that strategy literally means. So when we say strategy in NLP, we're saying any sequence of representation that leads to an outcome. When we talk about strategy in NLP, we're looking at outcome. And I want you to write this down in your notes. One of the things that we do on a regular basis that we think in terms of outcome. Whatever we're doing, we think in terms of outcome. We analyze outcomes. We have what's called outcome thinking. So the strategy is, everybody has a strategy. You have a strategy to eat, you have a strategy to speak, you have a strategy to do what you're doing. Every time you do an activity, there's a strategy you have. And the goal of a man who wants to influence others is to first of all determine or evaluate or determine, deduce or decode a person's strategy. Also, we say that if you want to succeed in life, the easiest way to succeed in life is to model people. To model means to copy or to mimic other people. That's a very strong thing we talk about in NLP. In fact, it's a core of NLP. Modeling is a core of NLP. For you to effectively model people, you have to first of all develop rapport with them, that is connection with them. And the second thing that you want to develop with them is you want to identify their strategy. You want to find out how they do. Okay, strategy means how they do what they do. Even for your negative emotions, for depression, there's a strategy for depression. There's a strategy for anger. There's a strategy for all of the states you have. There's a strategy for every state that you have. And so if you're going to solve a problem, a phobia, if you're going to solve depression, anxiety, whatever it is, that frustration of a person, you want to quickly identify his strategy. All right, so the next word we're going to look at, we'll look at that in subsequent classes. The next term that we use in NLP is elicitation. Elicitation. Elicitation means it's actually the art of communication, of getting a particular response from someone. The way you communicate in order to get a particular response from somebody. All right, so you can elicit strategy. You can ask certain questions, observe in certain manners, and then elicit, then determine. So you use elicitation to get people's strategy. We'll look at that in details. I just want you to take note of certain terms that we use in NLP. All right. Okay, so one of the things we also talk about in NLP, and it's very important that you pay attention to this, is that everybody has a driving force, a guiding force, and a commanding force. So take out your Bible and write those words down. Driving force. There is something driving people. If you want to be involved in life coaching, and I guess the reason why you're in this class is not just to achieve success for yourself, but to also achieve success for others. You're a counselor, a therapist, a life coach, a public speaker, a communicator, and you want to be involved in helping people. You must understand this very well. NLP can be used to help a lot of people. So you understand that human beings have what is called driving force. Everybody is doing something for a reason. So you put in front of driving force motive. We all do something because of something. We have a motive for all that we do. The second thing you want to write is your guiding force. So everybody has a driving force, and everybody has a guiding force. What's a guiding force? The meaning. So aside having a driving force, our motive, the next thing that we have is our guiding force, our meaning. The meanings we attach to certain things in our lives. And the last thing that you see predominant in people is their commanding emotions. What do we mean by commanding emotions? We're saying that there is an emotion that most often than none determines your strategy. Most often than none determines your state. There is an emotion that you constantly slip into. You see some people, they are always unhappy. It's not because there are times when they are happy, but very few times they are more often than none unhappy. So their commanding emotion is unhappiness. You see some people, they are always negative. It's not as if they are not positive or excited or creative, but more often than none, their commanding emotion, what regularly you see when you have interactions and engagement with them, is their negativity or their pessimism. So you've got to be very careful about your commanding emotions. Your commanding emotions determine your state, and emotions determine events. Emotions determine outcomes. Emotions determines a whole lot. So those three things are important: your driving force, your motive; your guiding force, your meaning; and your commanding force. That is what constantly drives you. The emotion that drives you. So right now, what emotions? What state are you in? You have to understand state management. One of these days, I'm going to be putting a video up at one of my videos on state management, how to handle your states, because you see how great a life you have and how much great you are in relating with people will depend on your states. The quality of your life is dependent on your state. By that I mean your current feeling, how you feel per time. You must be conscious about it. So let's start with driving force, and maybe we'll just end there today. When we say driving force, we're talking about your motive. What is driving you? What's your target? Everybody has a driving force. You have a driving force. I have a driving force. And actually, according to a certain philosopher and speaker, he says that we have 6 driving forces or 6 motives that drives everything that we do, are all in these 6 driving forces. And he also said that we have 2 or 3 of them, often than not. So I'm going to list out the 6 driving force according to this philosopher, so that you understand them, so you know where you're falling. The first, or we call, aside the driving force, is also the need of men, the needs, the drive, what our motive, why we do what we do. The first driving force is certainty. Certainty. What's certainty? We do things because we want to be certain. Some of us are at the job. I mean, there are people who do, let me just use this, network marketing. And they're doing network marketing and they are earning a lot of money, but they also still have a paid job. And you can look at them and see that they're earning so much money from their network marketing business, but they still keep their paid job. Why are they keeping their paid job? They're keeping their paid job because they want a sense of certainty. Because they know somebody is going to pay them at the end of the month. In a network marketing business, on the contrary, they have to work for any outcome they have is a result of their effort. So what if tomorrow they don't put in as much effort? That means they don't get as much money as they can get. So the regularity and the repetition of life is what people want. People want certainty. People do things because they want to be certain. People are influenced by certainty. When two people meet, the person that is more certain determines the direction of influence. And so your level of certainty determines how influential you are. Okay, so certainty is a very vital need in the human factor. People get married to that man, you get married to that man because of level of certainty. You're certain that, okay, it may not be all rosy today, but there's a possibility the possibility because of his salary or because of this income, he's going to make more money, and so therefore I can stay married to him. So we all have that level of, we need that certainty. The second most and very most important need or driving force in people, interestingly, is like a paradox, is uncertainty. Uncertainty. Yes, there are people who need certainty, but there's some people who also need who prefer uncertainty. So the second thing you want to write down is uncertainty, or you can write down variety. People like variety, not just one thing. When you get too certain about a certain thing, what the result usually is boredom. But when you have uncertainty, people want variety or surprise. So you can put uncertainty, you can also put as that same thing, or variety or surprise. You see some people, that's why we have people who cheat on their wives or cheat on their husband, because they are certain of their marriage, but they want some variety, they want some surprise. People do certain things, and people who have that strong need are usually people who want to take risks. They like to take risks. And people like this also are entrepreneurs, people who can, investors who can take up money and then invest in certain things because they are not sure, but they want to always be on the mood, under that tension of uncertainty. They like that, and it's a need for some people. You see, it's also important that you identify what need drives you and what motive drives you. What's your driving force? Is it certainty? Is it uncertainty? Is it both? And in what measure? The next important thing, that motive that drives people, is called significance. People do certain things because they want to be significant. So people come to a place of people and they begin to make so much noise, or they want to be noticed. That notice me syndrome. What's driving them? They go to a meeting, they join clubs, they join associations, and they want to be relevant. They want to be seen, they want to be known, they want to be recognized. That man who brings out the gun to point at you and begins to command you because he wants that level of significance. So a lot of people do stuff because of significance. Their motive is significance. Even when they're doing something bad, it's not because they really want to do the thing bad, but they're looking, what the need they're trying to meet is a need for significance. And so you want to identify, why are you doing the things you're doing? Is it because you want to be significant? All right, the leaders fall into that category. The fourth need or motive that drives people is love and connection. Love and connection. People do certain things because of love. The reason why they do the motive driving them is love, and they want to always connect. When they are in that meeting, they're in that group because they want that sense of camaraderie, that sense of belonging. They want to be with people that give them that strong sense of love. And then the last two is growth and contribution. So some people's need is for growth. For most of you here, you are in this very small and closed Facebook group because you want to grow. Because of growth. Growth is a major desire, is a need. For some people, it's preeminent. And then there's some people who are in certain groups, certain churches, certain places for contribution. They want to have that feeling that comes with contribution. So the 6 needs, I will review them, are certainty, variety or uncertainty or surprise, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. So the question you want to ask yourself is, what needs are driving you? Interestingly, you can have 1 or 2. Now, the first four are called the primary driving force, because you can have any of the two of them, of the first four, or any of the three of them. Any of the two can drive you, determine what you're doing, determine your actions. When you see a man do something, if you check very well, any of those two has determined his action. All right? Then if he has three of those first four, that is certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, that means that he has formed an addiction. If you have three of them, that is an addiction. Three of those needs is an addiction. You have an addiction. All right, but the last two is rare. It's called the spiritual need, and it's only for people who have developed their minds, who have chosen to grow, who have chosen to live more than themselves, and those people will deliberately because actually make yourself. Your mind is very powerful. You can make yourself choose to need growth and choose to contribute. All right, so those are called the spiritual needs. These six are important, and they are your driving force. They determine your motivation. They determine your motives. So let me just quickly run down the guiding force, because we said that your driving force is the motivation or the motive you have, and we've mentioned six. Now let us also mention your guiding force. We said your guiding force is the meaning you attach to life. I was teaching students yesterday in class in my public speaking school, and I said to them that nothing has meaning. We only add meaning to things, and we only add meaning to things. Nothing really has meaning. You add meaning to things. If I come into a room and there are a group of people in that room and I slap one person, now the group of people can quickly attach a meaning to it. They can think that I'm rude. They could think I'm very violent. They could think I'm not cautious. But the meaning, what is most important is not the meaning that all of the other group of people are attaching to that activity or that action. What is most important is the meaning that the individual who receives the slap attached to it. Maybe because he sees me as an elder brother, or he sees me as a big person, a mentor, or someone who he has a lot to correct. So by slapping him, others are thinking that is me being insultive, but the meaning he has attached to it is that, oh, I'm so sorry, sir, he's being corrected. So meaning is important. How you attach meaning to the activities that happen to your life. How successful you turn out to be in life is dependent on the meanings that you attach to things. And it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to make sure that you always attach the meaning that is empowering to you, that you choose to put the right meaning that is empowering to you, that you refuse to allow circumstances to put you down, that you reframe. We call it reframing in NLP, that you reframe yourself, that even when negative things happen to you, you speak, you explain the things away, you explain and look up for the positive thing, look up for the lights, look up for the good, look up for the testimony in the tests, look up for the gain in the pain, look up for the story in the glory, look up for the message in the mess, look up for something. And it takes training to do that, to add meanings properly, to reframe, take out the negative notions people have and put a new frame. That by adding the right meaning to certain things in your life, you will empower yourself. You always be in the right state. Now, if there's a circumstance, it doesn't matter what is happening to you right now. It doesn't matter how negative the situation may be. The person that truly has the power to still come out of it is you. And it is dependent on the meaning that you attach to the circumstance. The meaning that you attach to the circumstance that has happened to you will determine whether you'll be level-headed, whether you'll be able to see possibilities, and whether you'll be able to move forward. So help yourself, teach yourself to attach the right meanings to circumstances in your life. Teach people who are around you, your children, your colleagues, your friends, people who you mentor. Show them how to see meaning. By that, for example, in NLP, we say there is nothing like failure. Not because you didn't fail, but we just believe that we don't attach negativity to failure. We say that failure is feedback. We reframe failure and say failure is feedback. Failure is only another opportunity to begin again intelligently. We said failure is not fatal. Failure is an opportunity. Should not be weight. It should be wings. It should not be a monument. It should be a fleeting moment. failure is not the end, but the bend. So if you start thinking in that direction and attaching the right meanings to things, you live a better life. Same thing to helping others too. And so your meaning is important in life. The meaning, a lady comes to you and she's lost her fiance, who she stayed with, she's given her body, given her time, given her resources, and things aren't working the way she planned it. So you can reframe her. You can tell that lady, you know what, God has not delivered you from a relationship to bring you to a better relationship. Bring a better man to you. Bring better opportunities to you. And so you should be excited and glad. Maybe that person would have died if he got married to you. Maybe the person would have lost his job if he got married to you. What you're doing is that you are reframing and you're changing the meaning of that particular circumstance. We have the power to change the meaning of the circumstances that are in our life. Does it make any sense to you? All right, so let's go through the guiding force. The guiding force, what guides our life? The first thing that guides our life is called global belief system. Write it down in your notes. Global belief system. What do you mean by global belief system? It's actually your mindset, your paradigm, your perspective of life. Everybody has the way we look at life. We have the way we look at women. I have a way I look at women. I have a goggle that I used to look at women. I have a way I look at men. The way we look at men. The way we look at life. The way we look at God. The way we look at money. The way we see and understand money. We all have a paradigm, a mindset, a map. A map. But again, in NLP, we say the map is not the territory. That what you have in your mind is not necessarily reality. Your reality may not be actual reality. So you choose your reality. All right, so your global belief system is very, very important, and you have to be very careful determining whether you succeed or not. What do you believe? What do you believe? Do you believe that you're going to be in that same place? Do you believe you can be better? Do you believe that it doesn't matter what circumstance you're facing, you can change? Are you having limiting belief, self-destructive belief, or are you constantly increasing in capacity to believe some more? So your global belief is very important. The global belief system is your guiding force. It guides what you choose to do, what you choose not to do. It guides where you choose to go, where you choose not to go. It guides who you meet, who you choose not to meet. How you see women generally determine even how you relate, your relationship. How you see money determines how you invest or not invest. Your global belief system is important. The second guiding force of the human force or the human being is called identity. Write that down. Identity. What does identity mean? There is a belief about yourself. There is a belief you have about yourself. So the belief you have about yourself is your identity. Now the beautiful thing about identity is that your identity is not necessarily who you are. Your identity is who you believe you are, who you say you are, who you think you are. And people want to live up to the identity. They want to live up to the identity. It doesn't matter. For example, someone can say, I'm a very cruel person. I'm a very cruel person. And you will notice that all of the subsequent activities will be to live up to that cruelty. Because he's saying and he's thinking that he's cruel. All right? Does it make sense? But the thing is that the beautiful thing about identity is that identity is not static. Identity can be recreated. You can recreate your identity. And although it's important to say that your identity guides your actions, it guides where you go to, it guides what you do. So again, understand that your identity even determines the meaning you attach to things. What has happened to you? So your identity and identity consciousness is important. But understand that you have the power to change your identity. The question going on in your mind right now is, God, how do I change my identity? How do I change other people's identity? How do I change people's identity? Because identity can be very strong and very ingrained. Beliefs are ingrained in our system, in our subconscious. How do we change people's identity? Do you want to know it? I'll tell you. Because identities are strong beliefs about who you think you are, who you are. So you change people's identity by doing two things. The first way to change people's identity or to change their guiding force, identity, is to introduce them to a new skill. The moment you introduce them to a new skill, you literally change their identity. You literally change what they believe they are. I'll give you an example. You go to the village and then you pick a child from that village. The child doesn't know doesn't go to school, or is speaking pidgin or speaking his local dialect and is very immature. And then you teach that child how to drive. You teach the child how to drive, and then you teach the child, you show the child how to work on the internet and how to do coding or whatever. Now, what you have done to that child, and a child develop a skill, is that you have literally worked on his mind. He begins to believe himself other than he used to be. He no more thinks that he's that village boy. He starts thinking that he's a driver and he can drive any kind of car, a Ferrari, he can drive a Lamborghini, he can drive a Rolls Royce, he can drive a Mercedes Benz, he can drive whatever vehicle that you bring his way. He begins to see that he can code, he can work on, and as he develops new skills, his mind is open to new opportunities. So the fastest way to change a person's identity is to introduce the person to a new skill. The next thing, and it's a lot more difficult, the next way is to change the person's picture, the person's exposure to what he sees, both outwardly and inwardly. So let's use that village boy. So we bring him to develop a new skill, but we bring him to the city, or we take him to the United Kingdom, and we expose him to a new environment. We expose him to new scenery, new settings. He sees people, he sees routines and rituals, he sees systems, and he's constantly seeing it. Even though his old habits will kick in and people will laugh at him, but if he keeps staying in that place, his accent will change, his perception will change, and his identity, his belief about himself will start changing. So exposure increases your capacity, exposure alters your identity. Yes, alters an identity in the context of neurolinguistic programming is what you believe yourself to be. So exposure is important. One of the things you want to do yourself is to break out from certain circles, so you can sharpen and improve your identity, break out from certain circles and get into other circles. You cannot achieve beyond your sense of identity, your consciousness of identity. So if you want to become a billionaire, for example, you have no business being in millionaires. You have no business having conversations with millionaires. You want to break up from that circle and deliberately get into a new circle. Now, when you get in that new circle, you feel odd. You feel that sense of, oh, I'm not feeling comfortable here. But if you can stay in that environment, if you stay in that environment, you would increase in capacity and your belief about yourself will change. When you start getting results other than what you used to get before, your belief about that environment will change. So your identity is also determined by your environment, by your exposure, whether it is mental exposure to words, to images and pictures, or it's a physical exposure. And what you want to do most often than not is to make sure that you are exposing people to a lot of opportunities. Okay, so we're going to stop here today, and then next time we have another meeting, we are going to look at the remaining part of guiding force, and then we'll continue teaching. I hope you got value today. I hope you learned something. So make effort to watch this video again and again. Take down notes, because these notes will come out as exams for you, and they will be very, very beneficial to you. I see Joy Okereke online. I noticed you've been watching. Well done. Good afternoon. And I am going to making sure that on a regular basis we keep having teaching. I'm going to also upload this video on YouTube and share to everybody. God bless you and have a great weekend.